Welcome to Prime Sports with me, Razak Musbau. Now, Africa's greatest boxer, Zuma Nelson, says the WBC decision to retroactively award the WBC title to Australia's Jeff Fenech for their first meeting in 1991 will never affect his legacy. Legend Jeff Fenech was awarded a fourth world title 31 years after the said bout in Las Vegas. It was done during the BBC convention in Mexico. A refereeing review panel of World Boxing Council awarded the win to the Australian after he had petitioned the WBC. Zuma Nelson, in a statement released by his manager, expressed disappointment. Portions of the statement are captured in this report.
Reviewing results and awarding titles to boxers many decades after a fight is a dangerous precedent. This is happening for the first time in professional boxing, and they decide to start with me. I'm not worried about the decision, as it doesn't change my legacy in boxing history. Neither will it change anything going forward. If this will help Jeff Fenech to sleep well at night, I am happy for him. I rather find it a bit disturbing for the WBC, as it will open the doors for many boxers to petition them over fights they disagreed with judges' decisions over many years ago. The WBC doesn't need that pressure, as it doesn't add any value to our beloved sport. This has the proclivity to create credibility issues for the sport if not managed properly. If the WBC wants to introduce a review panel or video assistant referee, as is done in football, I would think that they would start with the current generation, who will then have the opportunity to fight again or belt returned to the right winner or to be contested for. This decision by the WBC means I went to Australia in 1992 as a challenger and not the champion going to defend his title. This is very interesting.
Well, this is indeed interesting, and in studio is Joy Sports, Nathaniel Lato, to help us appreciate exactly what has happened in Mexico. Of course, we know Zuma Nelson and Fenech fought in 1991. That ended in a draw in Las Vegas, and in 1992, the rematch was stayed in Australia, and Zuma Nelson completely beat the hell out of him, if I can say that. But in surprising incident, 31 years after, we see the WBC say that the bout in 1991, which ended in a draw after some re-evaluation, they've given it to Fenech. What is happening?
Thank you. This is a very, very unfortunate turn of events, especially when it's coming from the pioneering, sanctioning body of boxing, of international boxing, in professional boxing. Now, you're looking at a situation where there was a scenario where three judges came together and judged that this bout was a draw. If anybody would remember that night when the result was announced, Zuma Nelson said he was ready to fight Jeff Fenech right there and then. That just goes to tell you that the man is always ready and was always ready to work to earn his keep, and always ready to work to earn his stripes. Now, the WBC is also telling us that they've opened the floodgates for all other controversial decisions by boxers or by officials to be reviewed. Now, there was a particular instance some years ago where Mike Tyson clearly and openly said that in one of his title bouts around the year 2000 towards 2001, he went into the ring high on weed. Now, in this particular instance, it was a WBC title fight, but the WBC never said anything about it. Now, I'm very sure that if anybody is listening to me or watching me, they would say, you are trying to play sentimental. Well, this is not anything sentimental. It is the kind of precedence we're setting, and it is the kind of message we're sending to the rest of the world about our standards and our values as sanctioning bodies.
So this has never happened before. It's a precedent. But, I mean, do we have an idea what informed the WBC's decision to accept the petition for Fenech? Can you go ahead to read?
So this just wraps up the whole picture about the kind of effect that the loss suffered to Zuma Nelson has done, or the kind of psychological effect it has had on the Marrickville Mauler, Jeff Fenech. Now, Jeff Fenech, until the time he fought Zuma Nelson, was the biggest deal when it came to sport and achievement in Australia. This man had won titles in 3 weight divisions and was going on to a 4th weight division to become a champion. And that was going to seal his legacy as a legend. He was a demigod in Australia. He was placed right up there. And you can imagine if he had won the 2 bouts against Azuma Nelson, what it could have turned him into. So you do remember that in the year 2008, both of them fought in around middle age. Azuma was 50, he was 48. Now, when you critically look at that bout as well, it was more of Jeff Fennick wanting to pin Azuma to the corner, put his head into Azuma a lot more, and try to use a lot more of the hooks to the side of the body and all of that. Guess what happened after that? After that bout, Jeff Fennick reported to the hospital with broken ribs, and he had to treat broken ribs for a couple of weeks. Another thing that we also need to bring our minds to is the fact that there was a lot of backroom stuff that went on in the first meeting, which has now become the subject of conversation. In 1991. It was a co-main feature on a Mike Tyson fight night bill in Las Vegas.
Okay.
In the lead up to that fight, and that was 1 week to that fight, Jeff Fennick was going on his morning run as usual, and he met members of Mike Tyson's team who were also going on a morning run. Now, you know the boys in all of us. Sometimes you meet at the traffic light and you're driving and you want to just do a little, drag race and, on the streets and all of that. So they met each other and unconsciously they all went into this race trying to outdo each other with speed. And eventually what it resulted in was that Jeff Fennick burnt out. He was having a lot of muscle pain and he had to report to hospital. Interestingly, Azuma Zoom Zoom Nelson was also in the same hospital treating a bad fever. So both boxers found out later on that they had both reported to the same hospital. So there was a lot in the lead up to that fight. And that just goes to give us a clear picture of the kinds of things or the kinds of experiences that boxers have in the lead up to big days such as these. So for me, it's more of Jeff Fennick still suffering the psychological effect of losing his clean status and what would have been an undisputed champion without any doubt. And so Azuma Nelson was responsible for creating the only blot in his career. And that was done right before his own home fans. Ahead of that fight as well, one other last thing before you bring in your next question is the fact that, promoters resort to all sorts of different, strategies to get their boxers to win. In this case, when that return bout was staged at Prince's Park in Australia, one of the key things that happened was the positioning of the ring so that Azuma's corner would be exposed to the direct rays of the sun. And all of these things are little things that are done in boxing by promoters to ensure that their boxers win. But guess what? Azuma went in and, just in your own words, went and made a schoolboy of Jeff Fennick.
In the 8th round.
So my question is, what then is the fuss about? Because at the end of the day, even if Azuma Nelson went in as a challenger into that second bout, he silenced everybody and put it to rest.
That's the point. Fennick, 1991, if you felt you were robbed, you had an opportunity in 92 to redeem yourself. And no other place than in your home country, in Melbourne, in Australia, he got beaten. So this attempt to try and repair the image of Jeff Fennick is quite interesting, but it's also about the response from Azuma Nelson, where he's a bit laid back, isn't so perturbed, because some were expecting him possibly to put up a fight.
Yes.
This is taking something away.
Once again, I would like to salute Azuma Nelson for being a consummate gentleman. Look, Azuma Nelson has had opportunities to get back at many people who were responsible for a few ills in his career, but he let it go. I would place specific example on Jeff Fennick himself. Jeff Fennick in 2008 staged that bout as a charity bout. Now, in negotiations for these kinds of charity bouts, there are little things that are done, to meet each other halfway. In as much as we're all coming together to raise money for charity, there are a few bills that have to be paid. Jeff Fennick, as we speak, has not honored his part of the bargain. And Azuma Nelson can take legal action against him, but he decided to let it go. I've had personal conversations with him. And so when you have an individual such as this, I mean, he is a big brand for the sport. He is an example for the sport, and he has set a precedence which generations after would have to look up to and live their lives accordingly. All these other sanctioning bodies that you see, from the WBC through to WBO, WBA, and IBF, are always looking for exemplary champions based on whom they can pursue their craft and their agenda and their plan for the sport. And so Azuma Nelson has lived well, he has conducted himself well in the ring, and he is a great example. I do not see this. And you know the interesting thing? Azuma Nelson was given an invitation just like he is.
That was going to be my next question.
Exactly.
To understand, he was given an invitation to Mexico for that convention.
Very well.
And number two, he was unaware of this very development.
Very well.
So what was likely to happen was Azuma Nelson was going to be at the convention.
So, yes.
And
so,
this would be thrown at him.
Yes. So according to from my sources and all of my checks, Azuma Nelson was never given any notice whatsoever that Jeff Fennick had done a petition and that there was a review panel that had been created. And I felt that was very, very unfair and very wrong.
Yes.
Because if this is an institution, and I'm talking about the WBC, this is an institution that has run on a lot of credibility and has gained global appeal and has this much strength and this much presence in the sport of boxing, then certain things have to be done right. Besides, which Congress which WBC Congress decided and added to the statutes that hence we were going to have match review panels that were going to review decisions from the past. And I'm immediately looking at other sanctioning bodies and other controversial decisions that have happened in the past. And I want to even just limit myself to Ghanaian interest. Look, I was one of two Ghanaian journalists who covered the rematch between Abner Maris and Joseph Agbeko for the IBF bantamweight title in Anaheim in California in 2011. Now, guess what? That fight was staged at the Honda Center in Anaheim in California. Guess what? This came as a result of a protest that had been done and a petition that had been written to the IBF because Abner Maris had given an uncountable number of punches below the belt to Joseph Agbeko. On a couple of occasions during that bout, Joseph Agbeko had to struggle and he had to catch his breath and had to recover. Within the rules, that is a pure disqualification and the title should have gone to Agbeko. You understand me?
Yes.
It is a pure issue of a disqualification because he did not do it once, he did it more than 3 times.
So such decisions.
So if we were to go by those kinds of, then Agbeko can also go and petition the WBC and say, you know what, that first bout, you should have disqualified the boxer, yet you waited and declared him a champion. You understand me? So it is about the decisions we're taking today and the effect on tomorrow. It's as simple as that. And once again, I'd like to salute Azuma for the gentleman that he is and the fact that he's taken this in good stride. But we as the media in this side of the world have a very, very big task because guess what? Just as the Australians hold Jeff Fennick in high esteem, we here in Ghana also hold Azuma in high esteem. Remember that at the time when he became a champion, Ghana was getting out of a certain socio-political situation where Ghana was trying to get itself together and stand on its feet economically, socially, and politically.
Yes.
And at the time, the people were looking for an icon, somebody who could give them hope. And Azuma Nelson represented that hope. So he's not a man anybody should joke with. And he's a man whose legacy we all have to break our backs to protect.
Interesting. There's a bout involving a Ghanaian. We understand this
very well.
Denzel Inti-Mensah is going to be challenging for the WBO middleweight title. I mean, tell me a bit about him and also this bout, why we should look forward to it.
Well, Denzel Bentley Inti-Mensah, known as Denzel Bentley in the ring, interestingly has met Azuma Nelson. I mean, when he came to Ghana on his last visit, sometime last December, he came in, had a meeting with Azuma Nelson to get some inspiration and to get some words of encouragement. And this was after he had won the Commonwealth, middleweight title. Now, he went ahead to win the British middleweight title as well, and is going into this fight as British champion. Now, Denzel Inti-Mensah has a total of 19 fights. 2 of them he could not win. One of them came by a draw. One was a loss. It was actually a knockout that he suffered. And 17 of these are wins. Now, out of the 17 wins, 16 of them have come by way of knockout. So Denzel Mensah is somebody we all should place our attention and our focus on. Interestingly, he's going in to face the reigning champion, who's coming from Kazakhstan. He has a lesser number of fights, so has lesser fight experience. He's got 12 bouts, but at least in his last 4 to 5 bouts, he's played within the contention and the championship space, in the sense that he's won all the fringe belts that you can think about within the WBO, and he became the eventual substantive champion of the WBO.
I mean, interesting. We'll definitely follow that bout, and we'll get to see what happens. And of course, on Monday, we'll definitely have more conversation on that. Nats, thank you very much.
Great.
For the time. But Denzel Mensah himself has been speaking ahead of the bout.
This is every boxer's dream. This is my dream. Since I started boxing, this is all I wanted to be. And the 12th of November on Saturday, I have, the chance to do so. So I'm going to give it my all, give it my best. I'm honored to be here at the stage in Las Vegas. I think this is God's will for me. I prayed on it. God has delivered the opportunity for me. Now it's time for me to go there and, do the work that I'm meant to do, or that I'm willing to do. It's an opportunity of a lifetime to be here in Las Vegas. Like I said, fighting for a world championship against the world champion. And I'll do my best to make my friends, family, countries proud, Ghana and Britain. And yes, I'll bring it home. Thank you, guys.
Well, to some World Cup news now, and Germany will be without RB Leipzig forward Timo Werner at the World Cup, and after he picked up an injury in a Bundesliga game for Leipzig. Now, but DWTV's Chris Harrington has been speaking to me on what his absence will mean to the German national team and how they could avert the impact of it.
It's devastating news for the 26-year-old. I think his worst fears have been realized. We have to keep in mind Timo Werner. He departed RB Leipzig, tried his skill sets in the Premier League at Chelsea. Things didn't really work out, all too well. And he himself had mentioned Hansi Flick had been in his ear talking to him about, I think maybe it would be better for his national team career if he were to return to Germany. And he did that, and for him to come out injured in the Champions League match, they most recently played, I think is a huge blow. His left ankle looks to be seriously injured, and he'll be out for a while. According to the medical reports, he has a torn ligament, and he'll be out for the rest of this calendar year. And you look at how electric he was in front of goal. He netted 8 goals in 13 appearances under Hansi Flick. I think he was going to be used as basically the tip of the spear under Flick. So that begs the question, who will replace the likes of Timo Werner? Florian Wirtz has been a name that's been thrown around. He's trying to recover from injury. You have Moukoko, Youssef Moukoko for Dortmund. I spoke about him earlier in the week. He's also a young talent, that's made an appearance as well. He's an option. He provides a threat from outside the box. Obviously, a lot of creativity within the box as well. Dortmund have another player, Karim Adeyemi, as well. It's interesting to see what Hansi Flick will decide, because obviously Germany do not want to repeat, their horrible run back at the last World Cup in Russia. Qatar, they have higher expectations, no doubt about that. Hansi Flick obviously taking over for Joachim Löw was supposed to breathe new life, into the team and so forth. They started off with this crazy run of success in the litmus test, of course, where rubber meets the road is Qatar, and the clock is ticking. The tournament is right around the corner, and I'm interested to see, what Hansi Flick will do in terms of a lineup. Because I do think Timo Werner is a young and upcoming talent, and he will definitely be missed, with this World Cup. And, just all for those that don't really understand, here in Germany is a place maybe different from other countries where I believe the players born here, of course, I think they hold their World Cup status and how they how much success they gain on the international pitch is going to be a step above, maybe a domestic title, so to speak. Because when you look at the nature of the game today, obviously a lot of players jump to clubs every so often, depending upon their value and so forth. They're trying to strike, a good return on their talent and so on. And players do that, but something always stays the same. And Timo Werner will always represent Germany. So I think he's young. He has the Euros, the next Euros where Germany will be hosting to look forward to. And then 4 years from now, obviously another World Cup. He'll be 30 years old. It's tough. It's tough when young players are injured and miss out. We've seen this also with Marco Reus, as well. So I wish him well and I wish him a speedy recovery. But Hansi Flick will have to figure some things out.
Chris Harrington of DWTV now. There were games in the Betspar Ghana Premier League today with Legon City securing a 2-0 win over Great Olympics at the Airworks Stadium.
With a corner kick. Jonah gets a back pass, then is flighted into the goal area. Stephen Kweku, no problems at all. Eric Bonsu, I thought, was trying to catch Odai at the corner.
Yeah, it's one from the training ground. It's Atukwe and Bonsu linking up, but Bonsu shot.
Pass through there on the far side. Sadat Mohammed lays on the pass. They're coming forward again. This is where Lagos City seem to hit a brick wall, but this time they may have the advantage through the middle. And a foul committed from there, and the referee has pointed to the spot. It's a penalty.
Yeah, good pressure from City. As today, pass. Yeah, a little bit of contact.
Nicely done by Michel Otu.
Yeah, lovely spot kick. Sends the goalkeeper the wrong way. And goalkeeper not going to stop that. Sends him the wrong.
Goes through the middle, lays a pass on nicely, gets a second bite of the cherry. Oh, that would have been a wonderful goal.
Super play from Jonah Tukwe. Just look at the link up. The one to work into perfection, and the defense of Olympics were in tatters. But just when Atukwe pulled that ball back, you'd expect Koji to finish home with a plumb. Just look at that intelligent play from Atukwe, linking up very well. And he was working to perfection here. All that they needed was that finish.
Points, especially when they're playing away. They've not won any of their last 10 away games. And it's a long throw. Legon Cities, can they take advantage? Oh, sublime. Not too sure whether that was the plan, but it worked. And Legon Cities are 2 goals up. Suleiman Mohammed.
He's seen the goalkeeper off his mark, but yeah, the throw from Osei Bonsu. And Olympics again failed to deal with it. And just when it fell, Suleiman would just lift it up and goalkeeper off his
lips, and he's directed that we've had enough.
Well, there are some other games involving Tamale City and Brecum Chelsea, which ended 2-2, and also there are some fixtures coming up this weekend in the Ghana Premier League. And, well, as you see there, Confines have got their first win of the season over Kotoku Royals, 2-1 there. Legon City is winning 2-0, and Tamale City getting a draw against Brecum Chelsea. Tomorrow, there's a game involving Mediama and Kumasi Asante Kotoko. And on Sunday, Bechem United will play a Cry Lions and Heart of Folk, who turned 111 today, will play Karela United. And Sanchiman will play Dreams FC, Samatex, and Bibiani Gold Stars will lock horns. And Tamale City will host the Diana Stars at the Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium. Elsewhere in Europe, there are fixtures in the English Premier League on Saturday. Manchester City will play Brentford, Bournemouth and Everton will play Liverpool, will take on Southampton, who have sacked their coach. Nottingham Forest will play Crystal Palace. Tottenham Hotspurs will play Leeds United. West Ham and Leicester City will be in action. And Newcastle will play Chelsea. Wolves and Arsenal will also be in action on a Sunday. Brighton and Aston Villa, Fulham and Manchester United. And that will wrap up the English Premier League for the World Cup. And in the Bundesliga, Augsburg will play Bochum. Bremen will play RB Leipzig. Hertha Berlin will play FC Cologne. Hoffenheim will play Wolfsburg. Leverkusen will play Stuttgart. Schalke 04 will play Bayern Munich. And on Sunday, Mainz 05 will play Frankfurt. And Freiburg will play Union Berlin. Well, in some interesting turn of events relative to the Senegal national team, FIFA's General Secretary, who is a Senegalese, Fatima Samoura, has stated that Senegal will use witch doctors, if the need be, in a bid to make sure Sadio Mane is fit for the World Cup. Samoura, who is the second in command at football's governing body FIFA, said that her country will do everything to give Mane every possible chance to play. She is reported to have said to Europe 1 TV in code saying, "We are going to use witch doctors. I don't know if they are effective, but in this instance, we are going to use them anyway. We are hoping for miracles," she stated. The 33-year-old Mane suffered an injury during Bayern Munich's 6-1 win over Werder Bremen on Tuesday and is now a major doubt for the upcoming tournament, despite being named in the lineup. Mane is a pivotal figure in the Senegal squad as he is the main man. The former Liverpool enjoyed a stellar campaign last season, leading his side to Africa Cup of Nations glory before scoring the winning penalty that confirmed his country's spot at the World Cup. He has since been included in Senegal's 26-man squad for the World Cup. We'll wait to see how he fares over there. Well, that's what we draw the curtains on today's edition of Prime Sports. There's so much more on myjawonline.com/sports. And this was brought to you by Kwame Benaya and I, Razak Musbau. Do have a lovely evening.